Hi, I'm Heather Hobbs, founder and ministry director of Twice Loved Heart. I founded Twice Loved Heart for two purposes. First, to tell my story and encourage others that they can have faith, love, and joy in the midst of struggles. Second is to honor the life of a man who in his death gave me life. I'd like to tell a little about myself so that you can understand the miracles that God has done for me. First, I was born October 9th, 1977, on a Sunday. My parents were happy to have a little girl, as they already had a vivacious boy. I was a little early and tiny, but I was seemingly healthy. In those days, there weren't sonograms to check if you were a boy or a girl. So my parents only wished for a healthy baby. On October 10th, the very next day, my family would change forever. I wasn't what they had hoped for or prayed for, after all. My pediatrician came in and talked to my mom and told her that our nurse had heard a murmur. A murmur. What in the world is a murmur? Mom had no idea, and she didn't know exactly what was wrong with me, but she knew it was not good. 3 weeks later, I went limp in my mom's arms, and she rushed me to the doctor, and from there I was put in an ambulance and taken to the hospital, where they learned that I had congestive heart failure at 3 weeks. That was the beginning of a lifetime of hospital stays, procedures, and even a near-death experience. My childhood was different than most. It was spent taking medicines, watching the other kids play, going back and forth from the doctors. And I can only imagine what most of you would think about that. I've heard some people say things like, I can't imagine what that was like, or that must have been so hard, or how did you survive it? You missed so much. When I look back, I remember pokes, procedures, hospital stays, and surgeries. But what stands out most are the wheelchair races down the hallway, playing in the playroom, playing with my brothers and friends at home, and the tape my brother made for me. To me, my childhood seems no different than any others. I know this view came from one major event in my life when I was 8 years old. I remember being here at my grandparents' home with my grandma sitting beside me out on a boat on this lake. I was about to have a major procedure called a valvuloplasty. I was lucky to have the doctor who had done the most in the world. I was his 8th patient and his oldest. Here I was, 8 years old, and I knew this procedure was risky, and I knew that I could die. My grandma was an amazing woman. She loved the Lord. And she loved to pray and quote scriptures. So we were out on that boat. And Grandma began to quote Psalm 23. She said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And I, being an 8-year-old, misunderstood what shall was. And I thought that meant, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. Like I shouldn't do it. So I looked at Grandma and said, so I shouldn't want my heart to be better? That was a pinnacle moment in my life. Grandma explained, God will supply all that I need. With God, I don't need anything other than what He has already given me. My heart doesn't need to be better. I didn't need to be a healthy child. My life had value without being healthy. simply because God loves me and He has given me everything I need. In that moment, I chose to value my life, to see the value in my suffering, and to find the joy in the midst of my struggles. Grandma gave me a poster of that verse, and it hung on my bedroom wall for years until it was so tattered and torn and stained that we had to take it down. But the verse and what I learned that day stayed with me through that valvuoplasty, through open heart surgery, through a near-death experience, through loss of blood, and even a heart transplant. The man I spoke of earlier, who gave me life in his death, his name was Brandon. Through his willingness to donate his heart, I am alive today. His family was willing to look past their grief and think of others. Only through their extreme selflessness and bravery am I able to speak to you today. I want to remember Brandon's life and his family and remind people of what heroes they are. My prayer is, through my life and the life of Brandon, I can encourage others to know the Lord, love Him first, and have joy in the midst of struggle. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story, and I pray each of you make the choice to find joy.